Afternoon. There are rumors that eating poppy seeds in large quantities or using Listerine mouthwash will create a false positive alcohol or drug test. I'm not sure whether or not this is true, but today we will discuss the legal aspects of the limited use policy. At the end of this information speech, you will know the objectives of the limited use policy and be able to identify what evidence is protected under this policy. Thanks. Contrary to common belief, the limited use policy is not intended to protect those trying to avoid disciplinary or adverse administrative action. The ASAP is actually trying to identify alcohol and drug abusers by encouraging self-referral. Encouraging self-referral by limiting what the command can do with certain drug or alcohol evidence. Why? To facilitate the rehabilitation of abusers who have potential for rehabilitation and continued service. Not all use is illegal. Sometimes people test positive for a controlled substance, but they may have a prescribed medication by a doctor for medical purposes. This is not illegal and not part of the program. One of the initial determinations after a positive result is whether the use was or was not illegal. The limited use policy is only concerned with illegal use or alcohol drug dependency. Next. The government is responsible for administering and carrying out military justice. We cannot use evidence protected by the limited use policy in court-martials, Article 15 proceedings, or to downgrade a soldier's discharge from honorable to either general under honorable conditions or other than honorable conditions. Again, limited use policy limits how we can use a certain drug, alcohol evidence against a soldier. Illegal drug use is serious and requires the command to initiate separation under AR 635-200, Chapter 14, and AR 600-8-24 for officers. But if a soldier self-refers, the command does not have to initiate separation proceedings, according to this limited use policy. Why? Because we want to encourage self-referrals and early detection before it becomes a UCMJ problem. If the command had to separate, people would not come forward. Now, the command can still decide to separate the soldier based on his drug use and use the protected evidence, i.e. his self-referral. However, the soldier will receive an honorable discharge. So, limited use policy restricts or limits the consequences of a soldier's involvement in the ASAP program. Next slide. What is evidence? Testimony, documents, tangible objectives that tend to prove or disapprove alleged fact. In our profession, we want to prove that there was illegal drug or alcohol abuse. Therefore, the main evidence we're concerned with is the urinalysis or breathalyzer results, eyewitness accounts of the drug or alcohol use, drug paraphernalia, actual drugs or devices that are seized or turned into law enforcement or the command, or video evidence. There are several ways in which a soldier can be identified as a drug or alcohol abuser, and the identification process helps determine whether the evidence will be considered limited use. They are self-referral, command referral, biochemical test shows drug use by urinalysis or blood test or breathalyzer, medical identification, i.e. ER visit or routine visit, investigation apprehended by the law enforcement agencies, and any soldier identified as an illegal drug abuser will be referred to ASAP, at least for initial screening, regardless of the method of identification. Knowing the background to the evidence collected is important to determine whether the policy will apply. For example, the command directing urinalysis determines the soldier's competency is protected. Command directing urinalysis is a part of the ASAP program, and command directing urinalysis is a part of the unit inspection not covered by limited use policy. Next slide. Again, knowing how the information came into the command or law enforcement hands is key. Not all medically gathered information is limited use. The soldier or his buddy can be free to tell all about the use if the soldier has overdosed. Why? We want to assist the soldier and perhaps save his life so that he will hopefully encourage him to be forthcoming in his limited circumstances. But if coming into the hospital and test the results of a car accident or playing intramural sports and a doctor discovers you were drunk, driving, or using steroids, this is not covered and can be used against you in criminal proceedings. Next slide. For this to work, the soldier needs to be unaware of the urinalysis at the time of his self-referral. If he has already been ordered to submit a sample, or he knows the urinalysis is about to occur, his urinalysis result is not protected by limited use and can be used against him. Also, important to know how long substance remains in the system, because any use that occurs after self-referral is not protected and can be used against you if discovered outside the ASAP program. Not mentioned on this side, but also covers safety mishaps investigation results, accidents analysis from a safety investigation. Next slide. Information regarding use after enrollment, not limited to positive tests. So if someone tells on a soldier's use or otherwise comes out, that is not covered. Once in the program, he needs to discontinue use. If not, soldiers become a rehabilitation failure and the command can separate under Chapter 9 of AR 635-200. If failure is detected only by ASAP drug tests and a soldier is enrolled for a drug program. If not a program rehab failure and your continued use is discovered by law enforcement, non-overdose, medical care, unit urinalysis, probable cause search, then you can get separated under Chapter 14 of AR 635-200. One final point. We use limited use evidence if a soldier brings it up first, rebuttal, or to impeach him, i.e. he's at a court-martial for something else and we have limited use evidence and he says, I've never done drugs before, we can bring in the results to refute that testimony. Next slide. In summary, I've gone over the limited use of policy objectives. We talked about what is protected evidence. Are there any questions? Thank you for your time.